Welcome to African Discoveries, the podcast where we uncover the innovations, ideas, and individuals shaping Africa's future. Today, we explore a discovery born from a simple but powerful question. What if African businesses, entrepreneurs, and communities had access to better data to help them make better decisions? Our guests today are the minds behind BLEC Advisory, a data intelligence platform focused on making South Africa's business ecosystem more visible, accessible, and actionable. Joining us is Tinashe, a strategist, entrepreneur, a people development specialist whose work sits at the intersection of creativity, business strategy, leadership, and understanding human behavior. Through years of working with organizations and entrepreneurs, he has explored how people, culture, and strategy influence growth. He is joined by Anza, whose career spans national statistical programs, international forensic advisory, and emerging technologies such as AI. His work explores how data and technology can help organizations understand people and create meaningful digital experiences. Together, they represent a powerful combination: how human insight and technological intelligence. Through BLEC Advisory, they are attempting to solve a major challenge facing many African businesses: visibility. Many businesses exist, innovate, and create value, but remain difficult to discover because the data around them is fragmented, inaccessible, and incomplete. Today, we unpack the story behind BLEC, why it was created, what problem it solves, and what it could mean for the future of African entrepreneurship. Tinashe, Anza, welcome to African Discoveries.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
very
us.
much for having us.
That's a very astute introduction. Wow. I might need to start taking myself a bit more seriously.
That's great. If you don't mind, who is Tinashe?
Who is Tinashe? Jeez. I'd say a 20-something-year-old who's found himself heavily, I guess, proficient within the humanities and softer skills world, but I guess currently entering a more STEM-focused sprint in my life.
Yeah.
For the most part, I'm just always been intrigued by human behavior, how society works. I've always been a curious person. Hence, I think why BLEC has taken shape the way it has.
Yeah.
We ask a lot more questions than we do, I guess, find answers. So, yeah, I'm just a person who's always, I guess, looking for or asking a handful of different questions around
Amazing.
a range of different areas. Yeah.
And who is Anza?
Anza right now is, I guess a man who's at the intersection of research, communications, and artificial intelligence. But the journey comes, from way back, from a variety of functions and fields that I've been in. Much like him, within the humanities field. We talked about having worked in government and, trying to collect data and statistics for government to make decisions on. And, having worked as well in the financial services sector. And, yeah, just having that analysis from not just doing my job whenever I'm doing my job, but also having sort of my own little notes that I'm taking throughout, my own little structured data that I'm collecting about all this work that I'm doing. Because I'm doing something. And the output shouldn't just go to the company that I'm working for. It should also come to me as well. So much of that, as I'm explaining, is data. And I do work quite a lot with data, synthetic data even, fake data that you make up just to explore a scenario or an environment. And right now this is where I'm at. Has spent the last couple of years doing the research for the market, for the South African market. Knowing just how much people are out there that wish they had access to certain information, but they don't, and they don't even know where to start. So we go around, making talks, publishing reports, collecting information outside, and bringing it right back to the people that we're trying to assist.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm also, in a partnership or in a contractorship with an artificial intelligence company, of course, where we are at the forefront of uncovering everything that AI has to offer, for people. And it's been a great journey, and it continues to be.
We cannot wait. Gentlemen, if you don't mind, what is the discovery and why is it important for Africa?
Wow, that's a very broad question. What is the discovery? Like one particular thing or something that... anything that
the discovery, like the BLEC Advisory. And why is it important for Africa?
I think something that I have discovered, I don't know if it's the one, but I think it's important to note that as far as we've come on the South African part of the continent in terms of availability of information and data, I think there's still such a long way to go in terms of documenting and having like clear mapping of, business, education, general social political experiences. As a people, we always have a relative idea of like what's going on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if we could do a better job of just like documenting the developments, the failures, the successes, not always in, doesn't have to be in audio form, written form, company documents, quarterly updates. I think as BLEC, despite the fact that, our big claim to fame is being able to access this data and turn it into something that's like really valuable. A lot of the time we walk into so many hurdles because there's a certain piece of data that we cannot get, and it makes no sense to us as to why does this thing not exist. So I think for me that's just the data gaps. I think, we have a problem to solve now. And I think we'll get there in no time, hopefully.
Okay. Do you want to add on something into that?
I guess, we like to think of ourselves as a global organization. We think globally all the time. And when you compare Africa as a whole to global standards, we are quite lacking in even the data that we're speaking of, access to data at specific job functions, access to data at specific sectors of the economy. We don't have that. And there's a lot of areas where that data doesn't exist. And we're just trying to, we're not doing anything, big and advanced. It's just, we're trying to, just get to the standard of how much data should be available for those that wish to use it, just as much as, the US has so much data archives available, the EU have so much data archives. We're just trying to catch up to that.
Yeah, we're going to revisit those thoughts in detail. For Tinashe, before BLEC existed, what was the moment or realization that made you and your team say there's a gap here and it needs to be solved?
I think I was having a stint in, I wouldn't say a stint, I was coming to what would be maybe the influx or apex, I don't know what you call it, of my media career, where that's when we had done a lot of like creative work and whether it's pop culture or whatever have you, I was interested in the entrepreneurial and business ecosystem within Joburg and, trying to see what we could do with that piece. And then along the way, we had our first, I guess, event as BLEC and, seeing how much of an effort is made just within the ecosystem itself to succeed and grow and, try pull in different partnerships, whether it's people from Cape Town, people from Durban. There's this level of organization that, okay, there's people who are here trying to do something, And though media was good at the time, I felt like that ecosystem as a whole lacked a bit of structure, if I could put it like that. So I guess, pivoting into the BLEC and research space and I was kind of trying to lead these, I would say, roundtable discussions where we talk about anything from women in leadership within, corporate to, the early days of AI. This was 2022, 2023, and AI was just like, on the horizon. We could kind of make out what was happening. And so I think it really just took on a knock-on effect, really, just from that event, the success of bringing all these different leaders, entrepreneurs, execs, investors, and what have you, into a room and seeing how much appetite, I guess, there already is for a concerted effort at building out something within the entrepreneurial and tech space. I think seeing that kind of just opened my eyes to a world of possibilities. And yeah, I think since then we've kind of just been going and growing year on year.
Anza, your journey has moved from national statistical programs to forensic advisory and now AI-driven solutions. How did your experience with data influence the way that you saw this problem?
My experience with data, I had a stint in my life. Maybe it ended maybe two years ago, where I was able to keep track of every single thing that I was doing in my day, in every single moment. And what excited me about doing that is that a couple of years, later, I am able to look back at September the 3rd, 15 p.m. What was Anza doing on that specific day? And I'm able to figure that out exactly. So, yeah, that was a lot of just building up this data warehouse, this data catalog. And that's what it's always been about. So much of what's going on around the world, can be captured digitally. And that's where we talk about, if we're in the AI era, we talk about digital twins, where you take an organization as it is and make a digital version of it. Every single data point, every single relationship within that organization, every single account, every single product, every single software, you're able to digitize it and map it. So doing that is really powerful. Even now, some of the biggest companies in the world, Palantir, for example, that's exactly what they specialize in, mapping organizations for their digital self. And, that particular function of work is important, especially in the AI age, because AI is powered by data.
Palantir is an organization?
Yeah, it's a company that they sell technology to government and big companies, and that's one of their products, mapping a digital organization into a digital. So AI is quite important when it comes to that. When you have to feed an AI that has a specific goal as to why you're building it, you need to have all this data that it can reference for it to make the best decisions. So yeah, that's where my journey is.
See, Tinashe, you have worked heavily with people, with brands and organizations, I guess. What did you notice about African businesses that made you believe better data was necessary?
I think what differentiates us from our global counterparts, Brazilian counterparts, Russian, American, is that despite all our, I guess, entrepreneurial fervor and excitement and genuine skill, I think we often make decisions off of intuition or gut feelings or quote unquote experience. And though a lot of those things are good and they go a long way in terms of making us feel certain about our decisions, I think an added layer of even a one-pager of, hey, this is what you did over the last 5 years. We get you about to go into this direction. Do you remember these few mistakes that you made? And if there was a track record, a data, maybe a transcript, just something that you can refer back to, I think that is the layer that a lot of other countries, entrepreneurs, continents, whatever it is, reference to make the best decisions about what should happen next. Because a lot of the time, even just going off of our own experiences, our memories are flawed. Like our memories can be, we can even just remember things a certain way, you know.
That didn't happen.
Like, yeah, that didn't happen. Or I wasn't the villain in that story. You know. So I think having something, despite your own, I guess, willpower, judgment, whatever it is, to kind of help steady you is a huge difference maker when it comes to, you know, what is our next big play? What is the next big move that we're going to make? What should the next 2 weeks look like, regardless of, you know, how it is that we're feeling, you know? And the data around how we've performed in the past, how competitors are performing right now, can go a long way towards just making better decisions about anything, really.
When we talk about business intelligence, many people, including myself, we think of numbers and reports. What does business intelligence mean? What does it actually mean in an African context?
Business intelligence in an African context. I mean, for me, at a high level, intelligence just means what he was referring to, being able to answer a question at any point in time. Right. Having enough data that you've collected, having enough historical data about your own business internally, having historical data about your finance, your HR, your marketing, your every department that you have. And also having historical data about the external world, the outside, what's happening, who has entered the market in the last 2 years. What are the revenue trends looking like? What are customers saying about this industry? What is the ongoing trend? What is the ongoing marketing? That is intelligence. And that intelligence exists somewhere in the void out there, but it becomes actionable intelligence when a company has captured its own databases, its own tables that it can reference. That is business intelligence and allow them to make decisions.
So to the both of you, from the technology and the data side, what makes BLEC different from existing business information systems?
I think the timing of when we've come up. Obviously, market research is not something that's, you know, new to business the world over, whatever. Nor is business intelligence or general consulting. But I think our combined skill set, along with the technology that is accessible to us right now, has made not just entering the market a lot easier, but I'd say our ability to like make sense of huge pieces of data over a short amount of time, with the help of, I guess, huge data sets that have been published over the years. So I think what I can appreciate about where we are currently is that I don't know if a business like BLEC would be able to thrive in, say, a part of Malawi, a part of Morocco, a part of Nigeria, Uganda. You know, I think South Africa has this unique and great ability of digitizing a lot of the economy, despite the fact that there's still a lot more, you know, that can be done. So I think, the timing, the tech, our skill sets, a lot of it has kind of just like melted into this like pool of this great thing that we've been able to build. And we keep on seeing success on I would say quarter by quarter, year by year basis. And it makes us feel like, okay, if now is the right time to have, you know, taken this particular step. Yeah.
Wow. You know, there's a lot going on out there, and I think as BLEC, we are right there. We know everything that's going on as and when we need to know it, right? Just based off the research that we do, we know the trends that are happening, and as a result, we position ourselves as efficiently as we can, right? We talked about AI. AI is a huge differentiator, and it's a catalyst to so many things, and we are definitely also taking advantage of that we make sure that we are speaking to the people who are in the ground, and we are uncovering information, because what we do is we will have general information, general data, statistics that we want to publish. But at the end of the day, it's about who comes to us and is like, hey, this is actually what we need to find out. So with all the breadth of the knowledge coverage that we have, we are able to narrow it down to that specific client and work with them, and develop that business relationship wherein they know if they're looking to find out anything new in the market, there's BLEC Advisory. If they need to uncover something about their operations, there's BLEC Advisory.
That actually makes you different. You conducted research with over 100 business leaders. What were some of the biggest insights that came from those conversations?
I think one thing is how people have differing perspectives on like what's happening with different parts of the economy. So like compliance, for example. You talk to someone in Cape Town about compliance, and they have a completely different perspective around their experience of compliance and what is required of them. But a lot of the time, it's not so much that they haven't gone out to seek the information. Though few do, a lot of the time it's whether you pay a consultant to share or keep you compliant, you know. And a lot of the time, that doesn't always mean that you are aware of what you need to do. It's more so being aware of how much you need to pay your consultant to keep you compliant. So I think general understandings of like different parts of the ecosystem are varied based on how involved you have to be. I think other pieces are how demanding entrepreneurship is in South Africa. So some entrepreneurs, depending on, again, how much capital you have or how much time or resources you have available to you, makes a difference in terms of like how you're able to approach building the business, approach growing the operations, growing the team. It's there's so much, I think, like from the multitudes of people, even the work I do around my thesis, and I interviewed some entrepreneurs around there. When I talk to them, again, under a humanities light, but still on a business topic, what they relate to me around conducting business in Johannesburg is uniquely different to, say, someone who's been in the industry and I met them at like a tech conference and they tell you about the 50 years that they've been doing business in Johannesburg, you know. So it's nice that Joburg is, in fact, South Africa is so vast in the entrepreneurial and business experiences that you can have. It's also accommodating in a range of unique ways, you know. So you have some people who they do 6 months in South Africa, they do another 6 months in like the UK, in Canada, because of like the immigration and travel laws that allow for certain types of businesses to come in and out, certain types of I guess business owners, entrepreneurs, and things like that. So
if you don't mind, can you give us a synopsis of your thesis? I want to see how the humanities links to the...
So my thesis was on transition from work-life balance to work-life integration for white-collar business owners in Johannesburg, South Africa, analyzing the specific experiences, strategies, and challenges that they face when trying to integrate their personal lives with their professional lives. I guess there were 5 major themes that came out of there. One of the most interesting themes I found was how entrepreneurship often has, not always, but often has a direct, impact on your relationships and the degree to which they shrink over time. So multiple people within my study expressed some form of not having as much personal time or just time in general to cater to like their close friends, their family members, themselves really, because depending on what stage the business is in, it can be hugely demanding, more demanding, and the one thing that a lot of people, I guess, can sacrifice is their relationships.
Yeah.
You know, so
entrepreneurship, it seems scary.
It's hectic.
It's actually. So Anza, how does BLEC transform raw information into something that is useful for entrepreneurs, investors, maybe policymakers, and organizations?
Yeah, with each report that we do, every research that we do, it gets imprinted into a structured database.
Oh.
And what happens is every report that we have, right? Obviously, it's an ongoing development most of the time. Things are always changing and happening. Every research that we publish, it gets imprinted, it stays in the database, and we are able to continue reporting on that same information as and when we uncover new information, and subsequently then change the information in the database. And we're able to also see, by way of just auditing the changes that have happened with each of the publications that we would have made. Every time something changes, there's a date. It shows, okay, it changed on this date. It changed on this date. We published on this date. So that's how we keep the data organized. And even when someone comes at a later future saying, hey, they need a report on this specific thing, we are able to search just by way of a filter, a basic filter, data that can be found in this industry. And finance, for example, we start with the data that we have already reported on, and just make sure that we still contextualize every single piece of work that we have researched and that we have published into the future, and that it doesn't get wasted, and that the reports remain fresh.
Sure. A lot of African businesses are innovative. Yeah, but they struggle with visibility. Why do you think so many businesses remain unknown despite creating value?
I think in this particular age where we are, you really have to put yourself out there. And a lot of like the innovative businesses typically come from people who love to tinker in the background, people who like to work on the project, people who want to, they've got their spanners, they've got their screws, they're there like, in the garage working on this thing. And what I found is that you have to be, the skill that you apply and the effort you apply in building the project is just as important, or needs an equal measure of that same energy when it goes into marketing, when it goes into branding, when it goes into partnerships and relationship building, which I think I can appreciate from my humanities background. You typically spend a lot of time collaborating on whether it's a group project or presenting to whatever class it is, but beyond that also like marketing the product itself. It means nothing if you have a great product but it sits on some shelf that no one knows about. So you have to be going out there, like doing conversations like this, going on stage, pitching your business, putting together a marketing campaign, carrying it through over like 6 weeks, 2 months, things like that, and being as effortful in like the unique value that you're bringing, as well as communicating that value to the world that you want to buy. Yeah.
We're happy to be a part of visibility.
No, you guys are doing a great job. You guys are...
Thank you. As out of curiosity, what happens when businesses, communities, industries maybe are missing from data sets?
What happens when
they're missing,
what happens when they're missing data sets? Well, they stall. Operations in terms of doing something stalls, funding as well stalls, because the funders won't fund something that they don't truly understand. So yeah, that's simply what happens. We can think of a whole bunch of examples. The non-clear situation,
What happened?
where there's a business trying to to formulate operations in South Africa, but they don't have much information about what currently exists in South Africa and in that specific industry that they're in. They are able to actually compare again with the US and the EU. They see that the US and the EU in this industry, they have all this data that's available, and that's why funding is flowing so smoothly with their side. But here we don't have it. If we want to put together a project, we have to build from the ground, and that's not really what you want to be doing, right? You don't want to be building from the ground and doing the basic research to get your work started. You want information freely available, because let's face it, you have a lot more pressing issues that you want to be tackling at that point. So yeah, it just stalls everything, and certain projects don't start. I believe that there's quite a number of projects, quite a number of people who have looked into the South African market, and they were like, wow, actually this is a good market, right? But when they try to get in and they try to find ways to get in, they come here, there is no organization that's providing the data. If there is an organization that's providing the data, it last published in 2023, that data is no longer updated. So yeah, it just then stalls everything. They decide that, maybe we should just stay in the EU. We don't need to formulate business here.
Go to Australia.
Yeah, that's a no-win for everyone involved.
Also, what I'm hearing is that lack of information is problematic.
It is.
Business. Yeah. I wanted to ask you something, Tinashe. Do you think the biggest challenge facing African entrepreneurs is lack of ideas or a lack of access to systems that recognize and support those ideas?
Partly. I think the ideas are plenty. I don't think we'll ever be short of ideas. I think what's more important right now, given what I think the age of most African economies, at least modern economies, is that you kind of just need to stick it through. Like a lot of economies in the early stages, like a lot of the businesses that came around that time, there's going to be a lot of failure due to the fact that some businesses don't have the discipline to stick at the game, the grit to kind of go through some of the harsh times, I think those two things. I think you just need a lot of the time, regardless of what your business is, as long as you can outlast your competitors, just stick in that pocket and keep on going. Along the way, you get those competitive advantages that allow you to get bigger contracts, get more customers in a one swoop, be able to acquire more good talent. But I think a lot of those things come over time, and there are going to be some very dry seasons, years 1, 2, and 3. But if you can get to year 6, year 7, the compounding effect of just experience will eventually pay off. But right now, for a lot of African economies, entrepreneurs and so forth, stay in the game.
Hey, staying in the game.
Self-belief. Even if staying in the game means you're doing 10 hours of work a week.
Yeah.
It's as long as you don't give up.
Yeah. But as an entrepreneur, how do I know that something is working or not? What if I'm putting time into something that won't fruition into anything?
I mean, I think businesses are kind of like babies, like children. You don't know how they're gonna turn out. I think it's a Lamborghini. They started making tractors before they now make supercars. A range of products like Coca-Cola, didn't always have the most health-conscious ingredients list, But over time, you kind of refine, you pivot, and so forth. So in terms of staying in the game, you can pivot as many times as you feel necessary, because once you hit that opportunity that takes you to that next level, then that kind of becomes who you are, or at least who you are at that stage. And then you kind of just build and build and build from there. So if you're building out an AI tool that is just for reading PDFs, if that's all you can do for now until the next big innovation, and then now you can level up your AI to read not just PDFs, but like whole dictionaries or larger pieces of tools, or even us as BLEC, who we are right now and where we see ourselves in like 10 years time is significantly different, though a lot of the work will be similar. But it takes staying in the game and knowing how to hit your different milestones. Eventually you get to...
Makes sense.
But those first 2 years, even if it's just 20 hours a week, and maybe you don't even make any sales, but you built the brand, you have your company profile set up, you jumped in a couple meetings with like some partners who say, okay, no, come back to us next year. At least there's an opportunity next year. So, just
stay locked in.
Just stay locked in.
You've touched a bit on this question that I wanted to ask, that data can influence decisions about funding, investment, and development. How important is accurate data in determining who gets opportunities?
Yeah, it's it's definitely important, right? I mean, it's definitely important because you're looking at sometimes secondary data is not enough.
No.
I mean, that's like desk research, or you're going on the internet and finding out on the internet what's going on. But sometimes you need direct information from the people that you are trying to enter into agreements with, right? And that's where conversations like this are now much more important, because they tell the sort of data. We don't really call them data at that point. It's just a conversation, but they give specific pointers that desk research doesn't cover. So accurate data doesn't just mean that, hey, it can be verified. Sure, the numbers may say one thing, but when you start to speak to people, then you realize actually the numbers, there's a nuance to the numbers that might not be uncovered. So that accuracy and the distinction, to be able to recognize that the human provided data and the internet provided data, they need to line up as well. Obviously that then allows teams will formulate around what the data says. They will decide we need 2 accountants for this thing, or we need 2 researchers for this thing, based on the information that they're working with. And those are resources. That's time and energy of people going in. That's a 6-month project that you might just be conducting now. If it's not accurate from day one, you've wasted 6 months. You've wasted a ton of money. You've wasted people's time. It's very, very important.
Still looking at data and AI. AI is becoming increasingly important, if we can put it like that. How do we ensure African businesses are not only consumers of AI, but creators of AI-driven solutions?
Yeah, I mean, you are definitely, you are given, every company is given the capability to be creators.
Yeah.
What I mean when I'm saying that, obviously we don't own the models that are getting released. The competition between who owns those models is only between the US and China. Other continents aren't doing anything about it, right? And sure, those countries, we can accept that, hey, they will own the infrastructure, they will own the brain of the model that they're building. But this brain that they're bringing to Africa and to South Africans, it can be configured, right? You take that brain, and simple thing is just a system prompt, which is a technical term for telling a model how to behave, right?
Okay.
That model comes as a generalist, but every company or every individual can literally give it their own context, as I was talking about, their own data context that they have, their own operations, their own perspectives, their own historical information, and, provide that context to the artificial intelligence, put some scripts here and there, and you have your own little model. Even now, the huge trend that is happening is people localizing their models, so they're not using them to the cloud, where obviously if you're working on the model that is connected to the cloud, the data is in the cloud, right? Okay. Now if you want to have a local LLM, the data remains in your device. So that's another thing that that people are
It's
doing.
an LLM.
It's a large language model.
Oh, okay.
Right. So it's those things that you type onto and they give you a response.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
like
see.
on your chat GPT and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
So that's another way in which people are owning their own. Remember, the most important thing is not really owning the model, but it's owning the model context.
Okay.
Right, the model, your own model that you build with your own data. That's the proprietary stuff that you want to be keeping. Everything else, leave that to China and the US.
Tinashe, what does the future African entrepreneur look like? What skills, mindsets will they need?
Let's see. I want to say imagination. I think you have to be very imaginative about living in a future that looks a bit brighter than our current world. So I think things are fairly good right now, but loads of African entrepreneurs deal with many similar things. Corruption, failing legacy systems, red tape, and things like,
What do we mean by red?
Your licenses, your permits, they take long to be given
Yeah.
sometimes.
Okay.
Let me give you an example. There's another business that I was heavily involved in once upon a time, and we registered in America. We never stepped foot in America. We never had to send anything over. It was very like the business registration side of things, paying our taxes. It took like maybe 5 hours out of like the whole year, realistically. Whereas a lot of African countries, for one reason or the other, they make it hugely involving to, like I said, meet compliance requirements and things like that. So red tape, I think, holds us back a lot of the time, at a time where if you could empower more entrepreneurs with a more for free market and room to just go out there and do the thing, we might be in a different place. So coming back to the skills, I think, imagination around what you can do and what's possible for you. Communication. I think you really need to be able to sell yourself. And sell your ideas, sell your vision. People skills. I think we're coming up at a time where it's a much younger demographic across the continent. We're the youngest continent across all the others, and I think because of that, you're going to need to be able to communicate with a lot of older generations that are kind of in these senior positions who maybe you're pitching for funding. You need to be able to talk their language.
Sure.
But if you're going on campus and doing a campus tour, trying to roll out this new product of yours and doing these talks and so forth, you need to be able to understand what clock it means. You need to be one. Yeah. You need to be one with the people. So I think beyond that, I think the one most important thing is self-belief. For some reason, regardless of like the circumstances, I've seen that if you can believe in yourself, if you can see yourself just making it through the next day, the next month, the next year, there's a good chance you're probably gonna make it through the next 10. But if you don't count yourself in already, then no one else is gonna count you in. So you need to have a strong desire to win, an almost insane desire to win, if I will say so myself. Because again, where African economies are right now, America is centuries ahead of us. China centuries ahead. Europe is at a stagnant point right now and maybe on a decline, but they still have a lot of assets, going for them. For us, we have many a problem, but we need to be able to overcome those and more if we want to see ourselves as not only like an equal force, against our Silicon Valley counterparts, but even smarter than them, because we have it in us. We really have it in us. We just need to be like, have that dog in you,
Eager.
Yeah.
Few last questions to the both of you. And thinking about America being ahead of us, China being ahead of us, some people argue that Africa does not lack information. It lacks implementation. What would you say to that?
Yeah, it goes off of the back of what you were saying about execution and staying in the game, right? Sure, many ideas exist. 1,000 ideas are being formed every second. People are coming out, hey, this will be really cool to do. But how many are actually executing on that day after day, week after week? That's where the advantage is. We don't have any issue with, I think even, all right, maybe if you're looking at the urban areas, right? Infrastructure is good, all right, internet connection is good, transportation infrastructure is good, and that's an advantage if you're contextualizing South Africa with the rest of Africa, which doesn't have as many benefits within their cities, but we do have good infrastructure for us to be able to build something worthwhile. It's just about implementation, and when we look into implementation, again, we're looking at these skills that he's talking about. I don't know if this is true or there's nuance to it, but for example, there is some talks within some corporates and even government departments that there isn't enough skills for us to be able to pursue these goals that we are trying to pursue, and that's a huge problem, right? An example I could think of as well when it comes to implementing the sort of ideas that we have. There was recently a policy that was published by the Communications and Technologies Department. AI policy, you heard about it.
That AI was policy, created by AI.
And it was created by AI. You found that out a few days later. I mean, you have to think about the people that are working in that department and the sort of reviews that have to take place, the sort of operations that have to take place for a policy of that nature, which is going to be published to the whole country, to the whole continent that is looking at us.
Yeah.
If something like that is coming out publicly, you have to ask questions. What is happening internally that we are not seeing, right? There could be a whole lot of, misuse of information, lack of understanding of certain, concepts of the company or whatever. So implementation skills coming into that and having the proper skills to be able to take it through, that's a huge deal. And that's what, every company is trying to optimize for, just to make sure that we give ourselves the best chance through people, through technology, to be able to implement things. But otherwise, we don't lack any ideas.
Yeah. Okay. So what responsibility comes with collecting and organizing information about businesses and communities?
I think this is something I learned probably in my sociology days. I think ethics is a big thing. Okay. Protecting the data, representing it as clear as possible, and being open and honest about where you probably have some gaps in the data. Just being as mindful as possible about what it is that you're talking about and who it is that you're talking to and things like that. But also when you are collecting data, taking some thought to think about the people where I'm getting this data from, is this transactional? Does this require a transaction? Does me getting this data from so and so make a huge difference in terms of what their upcoming realities are? If I am sourcing data from, say, some construction workers who are building out a particular building that's been commissioned by, let's say, some random conglomerate company that no one knows about, but it's in the middle of Sandton, them giving me that information isn't really going to do much of a difference around, again, depending on the questions I'm asking. But them giving me some data around the construction of this building and how it came to be here and who got this tender, doesn't make a huge difference on their lives as it would be, say, if I'm going to the corners of, Brakpan, let's just say.
Yeah.
And I'm asking them, hey, how often do you guys find, gold deposits in your backyard?
Yeah.
And then they tell me, no, we find shiny things here and there, but we don't really have use for gold. So what is it to us, Then I go back to my big mining friends and I'm telling them, hey guys, by the way, let's go start lobbying to, build this mine. That has huge outcomes for the people of that community. And when these, I guess, corporate giants we are reporting this data to don't really care about, maybe they'll give each household 10,000 to go relocate or that we've seen a lot of those promises aren't always, So I think being mindful about where you sit in certain value chains and how, knowledge is power, and whoever you give that power to, it could sit on your conscience, the outcomes that come from, sharing that information. So yeah.
Last question.
Already?
That will take you back to some of the answers that you've gave us. Every discovery begins by noticing something others overlooked. What did BLEC reveal about Africa's business ecosystem that you believe more people need to understand?
Yeah, for me, I think that when you say Africa, I'm South African. I'm contextualizing everything in South Africa.
Yeah.
And I also recognize that we are one of the top economies and we are the most disadvantaged one. I mean, to answer your question is that there is opportunities, and even when you're looking at some of the historical disadvantages that we might have had, there are people and processes and policies in place that are trying to give people an advantage, trying to say, hey, we are building something for you and we want you to hop on. There's various programs happening within government, within corporates, where they are inviting people to come in and participate. They are inviting people to come in and have conversations. And, that's because obviously he mentioned earlier that we as Africa have one of the youngest populations in the world, right? We are the whole continent is relatively still young, and we are still growing into our professional fields and growing into our economy, so to speak, right? So, with that, with a young population comes energy, comes enthusiasm, and yeah, there's a world of opportunity out there that's open, and yeah, we just need to log in. A key theme of this: log in, and figure out your profession, your personality, I guess, within the whole ecosystem of things happening. But just to leave it on a positive note, is I do know that there's perhaps problems that people can nitpick and say, hey, there's all this stuff that are happening in our continent, but there's also a lot of good. You just need to focus on the good and do that and accordingly act in that manner. Yeah.
Today's conversation has taken us into the story behind BLEC Advisory, a discovery built around the belief that visibility, information, and understanding can transform how we support African businesses. Tinashe and Anza have shown us that behind every data set are people, businesses, and communities with stories that deserve to be seen. BLEC represents an attempt to bridge the gap between information and action, helping decision makers better understand the ecosystems they are trying to support. The future of African entrepreneurship will require creativity, human understanding, and technology working together. And perhaps one of the biggest discoveries is that Africa does not only need more innovation, it needs better ways to recognize, connect, and scale the innovation already happening. Tinashe and Anza, thank you for joining us on African Discoveries and sharing the journey behind BLEC Advisory. To our listeners, thank you for joining us as we continue exploring the discoveries shaping Africa's future. Thank you.
Thank you.